it's important that you understand the communication to help keep the culture in the direction you want to go instead of creating culture friction.
Mm-hmm.
Because a high performer is going to be a high talker, right? And a high visual for everyone else.
They're influencing the others.
Oh, yeah. Whether they say, hey, everybody look at me, or they just naturally, everyone looks at them, right? So it's important that you bring them in and say, hey, here's the goal, here's the expectations, here's how I want to help, what can I do to help you help? Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business while working through adversity and pouring back into our community that keeps our doors open every single day. We're your hosts, Shelby, Matt, and Taylor, and we'll be bringing you real, relevant local business advice, maybe some automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business or buying a car, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us here locally. Welcome back to Crossroad Conversations podcast with the Lewis brothers. We're your hosts, Shelby, Taylor. We've lost Matt somewhere, but he'll join us here after a while, maybe. I don't know. This week, we're talking about the leadership audit.
Mm-hmm.
What you're tolerating is what you're teaching. It's so funny this came across because I was talking about this the other day of you allow kind of to create your culture and the things around you and kind of what you'll tolerate, what you allow to accept. And so I love this comes across. So we're going to do a little bit different, breaking down just leadership audit, the comfortable or uncomfortable truth in that what you tolerate becomes your new standard. And it's not about being harsh, it's about being clear. And if I've said that once, I've said it maybe not enough times, but it's not that because you're the a-hole that says, hey, this, and this. It's because you're being very clear of expectations.
Yes.
And if it keeps happening, it becomes your culture. It's not this one-off and this one-off and this one-off. So we'll fully break that down, how tolerance sets a tone, and leaders don't just create culture, they approve or allow a new culture to happen every single day.
Absolutely. Hey, and checking back to last week, episode 75, we really talked about our immersive diving into the NADA conference, everything automotive, tools, systems-wise. The big topic was AI, and AI won't fix your business. Won't fix your business, so a great episode to go back in and see about how we really broke that down of how important it is to attend those, but then how to be shielded a little bit from all the new and shiny. So that was really good there. Hey, always check us out online at lewissuperstore.com and crossroadsconversationpodcast.com for all of our episodes up to 76 now with this current one. And hey, what's in the garage, I love the Escape. It's got all of the options. And why I love it, because it makes the most sense of a first-time driver, of someone that doesn't have all the kids, of somebody that's needing a budget-friendly car, of somebody that loves all the frills because you can get up to that, but then not a huge vehicle. And it's also got an option to be a plug-in hybrid up to 100 mpge, so you could go up to 25 miles per charge, all starting at only $25,000. So we have a lot of those in stock, ready to go. That is your quick plug for what's in the garage.
Good price point, good car, good features, good options. That's a good option for the day. All right, so let's dive into it. What are we tolerating right now? We're talking about today. We're talking about live. We're talking about what's going on. So why do small things feel so hard to address?
Because you let them go on too long.
Right? So it starts as a small thing, being a little bit late or not exactly checking all the boxes or not giving everybody the proper delivery or not walking out and greeting people every single time. It starts as a little thing.
And you don't address those because it's like, oh, I don't want to be nitpicky. I don't want to micromanage.
Yep.
Oh, I don't. So I should rephrase that. It's not that you let it go on too long. That is the snowball effect. But from the get-go is, hey, I don't want to be nitpicky and I don't want to micromanage this person.
And I think that's right, because that's the feeling of treating others how you would want to be treated. But you flip it on the other side a little bit, and I think if you can help and understand how to address the little things,
Yep.
to have proper expectations, to not just completely lose out on your goals and your expectations, instead of saying, hey, you're late again, or hey, why didn't you greet that customer here? Hey, why didn't you offer them a car wash or whatever it may be? Just all these little simple things.
Mm-hmm.
It's asking a question. And so often you can ask a question. So if you can help a person understand of how you address those things instead of like, oh my gosh, will you get off my back? Like I just got here and you're already tomahawking me. Well, it's like, well, I just listened to this podcast, or I know as a good leader, I need to not fail in those little things.
Yep.
So how do you do that? And it's asking those questions like, hey, is there something going on that keeps you from being here at X and X? Is there something I can help you with, right? And so you allow that wall to come down a little bit, and you ask a question there to understand, is there a system or a procedure or a policy that's keeping it from being unclear or understanding there? I think that's a big thing of helping people understand that. So you're not feeling like you're nitpicking, just like, golly, just let me do my thing, right?
Yes.
But if you just let it go, then what does that do?
It just becomes a permanent, constant problem. Then even worse, it is not just that person, it bleeds over to the rest of your team.
Yeah, and then what that creates is they feel like they're entitled to be X amount
Yes.
wrong or X amount variable or X amount late, right?
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they're entitled to it because they've never been reprimanded for it. And they
Yes.
and you thought you're being nice because you're trying not to nitpick them.
Mm-hmm.
Now they think they're entitled to it. So as soon as your lid blows and you say, look, here's what we're doing, here's when I need you to be here, here's what I expect of you,
Yeah.
then they're like, whoa, what the heck, dude? I've been
Yeah.
doing like this for 90 days, for 6 months like this, right? So got to be careful that one thing
Doesn't lead to a snowball effect of multiple things.
right? So you kind of got to handle those as they go, right? Ask
do.
questions. Standards don't erode dramatically.
No.
They erode quietly. Think about the wave that comes in and slowly comes in a little bit further and knocks down some sand or starts taking away at that shore side. It's just a little bit of time. So allowing people to get away with a lower standard, just a little bit at a time,
Mm-hmm.
the toleration is just like you don't overly see it, but it's just a little bit, and it's opposite as well. So if you're allowing each person to, like the other day, I was reading a book, and it was Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's trainer, and he was talking about we were trying to be 0.01% better every single day. So you can, instead of eroding, you can build on that. And then that allows you to be a little bit better every single day, but it's not going to be a night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whether it's eroding or it's building up. But the cost of tolerance compounds massively.
It does, and a lot of times it's in different areas of whether it would be in ours of sales, of parts, of office, of anything. And it always goes back to the thing that I love that Shelby has learned and repeated. Always inspect what you expect, of going through and realizing, hey, because the best time is to go now and help them and be involved with it. But you have to, I love to go and show them instead of just saying, hey, you got to do it this way or not, because a lot of people still won't listen to it and won't react. But if I go and show and say, hey, I want to pick up the trash this way. Hey, I want to greet a customer this way, or go and greet a customer with them that way so then they can actually see it in person.
I think that's better as a leader because you're in it and you see if there are any pitfalls or issues with the system. You're like, hey, why aren't you logging the customer's information in this system when you take them in? If you take it to them and say, hey, let's walk through how this works, you might see what they're dealing with because you've never been in the system in the last 90 days.
Yeah.
Right? And so then also just know this, maybe it's just as men, but you pitch the idea of doing something. They're like, well, have you done that in a while? Right? And so just of saying, sometimes men, we just don't listen, right? Somebody will talk about something and you just yada, yada, yada. Whether you're speaking it or it's coming at you and you don't fully take that in.
Yeah.
But if you stop and you teach and you go do that, the teacher and the person receiving that are probably going to listen and learn a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the important part you hit on, hey, welcome, brother amigo, to the party here. He's off of another meeting, fresh into this meeting.
Y'all are talking about data, aren't you?
No
keep going.
no data.
No data.
We're in
There's no-
episode 76. Find the tab, pull down through it. We're talking about what are we tolerating right now, how small things feel hard.
Gosh.
And,
so what I love that you talked about that I think is more important than necessarily the employee learning obviously is ultimately the best, but the leader teaching and going through, because I'm going to learn things that are your downfall that are difficult for you while I'm teaching and going through the process with you to show you, hey, this makes sense.
Yeah, it shows that they care. The leader, the teacher shows that they care to the other person, but also you get to learn how to coach that person.
Yes.
And then it helps next time you go to deal with that same situation with a complete different employee understanding there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about what we're tolerating and fully breaking that down, but talking about spotting the leak. So each person answers these quickly. A one-time leak in a business. Anybody think of a one-time leak in a business? We're spotting a leak of whether it be a person, a policy, a procedure, one money leak, one culture leak.
I'll tell you about a leak in a business, and it's because we've been talking about systems, is when we have a leak of a system that wasn't doing what we paid for it to do, and instead of sending in the notice to cancel it, we just bring in another system.
Yeah, or just keep paying for that system.
That's what I'm saying. That one stays there, and we add another one on top of it.
Yeah.
And we're discovering that in our parts meeting, we were just looking at that.
So that would be a system leak and a money leak.
It would be.
Right? And so instead of addressing what we're tolerating or what somebody we hired them for, whether it be a person, a process, or a system, instead of addressing that or fully vetting that and say, hey, is there something else you need from us to deliver what you said, the leads or the schedule or whatever it may be every single day, because this isn't working right now.
And probably why I paused right there is because it said a one-time leak, and I'm thinking in my mind, it was a one-time leak that turned into a continuous leak.
Yeah, it was eroding away each day.
Yeah.
One culture leak.
Culture leak, I can think of just, in our instance of expanding and bringing more people in, we obviously had to have the help there. But then when we realized there was more here that hadn't been here than what we did have over a 3-year period, that quickly a culture, even as defined as ours, can change fast.
Yeah, think about a pan on the stove of boiling hot water, but it's only a third of the way full. And then you introduce 2/3 of ice water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you still have boiling water?
No.
Right? Like it mixes, and so you have to fully leak that. I want to kind of sprout off of that because we employee turnover happens, right?
Sure.
Like we don't want it to, and our goal is to have tenure of employees for the employees, also for the customers, so when they show up, they know, like, and trust somebody already.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we are reminded of the culture that we work on daily to make sure that people enjoy and love the place that they work. And the same thing for the customer. But sometimes you get bogged down with all the somehow of the naysayer, and the problems just kind of get in the way. And you kind of forget how great some of the things are. And so we've had some new employees, or when we get to have a new employee here, or we get to do a tour and we go through and you just see the look on their face. Like, what's the look on a new employee after you tour? You go over the sales meeting, like, wow, right?
Just wow.
Right?
I can't believe you have all this.
And so it's a reminder of how great the culture is and how great what you've built is. And you just have to, you got to cover yourself with that, right? To be your safety blanket and reinforce that to say, hey, I might have a leak that's leaking into me that's saying what we have isn't that great.
I'd say, another thing on a culture leak that you don't want to happen, and it's easy to do, especially if you're growing and you're busy and you're wearing a bunch of hats, is not taking the time to recognize success and accolades within the departments.
Yep.
So if that culture starts eroding and you got a leak coming out, then all of a sudden what happens? The culture becomes they don't care, they don't ever point out what actually we're doing.
Yeah. I think that's super important there. All right, if you want to take the next one there.
You bet. Next up is why leaders avoid fixing things. So if you think about that, I would say that most leaders out there, if you ask them what needed to be fixed in their business or what was going wrong, they could write it down and recite it to a T to you.
Yeah.
They just avoid fixing it. Why do you guys think that is?
Fear of conflict, fear of loss. Right? That if you actually stand somebody up for what they're not doing correctly, that you might lose that person.
Yep.
That's my first two.
I think I'm going to say exactly what you're saying about fear of conflict. Naturally, people who wants to address somebody about a
Nobody.
situation?
About 10% of people love
Just
conflict,
angry.
and they
You
hang
know-
out on our Facebook page and everybody else's Facebook page. But the other 90% just kind of want to go through life
It's
and
like-
don't want conflict.
It's like, okay. So I think that is the number one.
Yep.
I'm going to put what number two, and it's not even listed here, but I think as leaders, we're afraid to be vulnerable because we think that employees think that we have it all figured out.
Right.
And if we show vulnerability of, I don't know what to do here, or I don't know what to answer, it's going to show weakness as a leader,
Yep.
which is far from the truth.
Yep.
It's far from the truth. What do you think, Taylor?
I think both of y'all hit those on the head, but it's just, it's naturally your thought that you're going to lose not only control, but then fear, but you're going to step back in any progress that you've made in the business. And in my mind, if I have somebody in another role that I need to talk about that I've handed it off to, they're growing, and I know it irritates me, but I'm like in my mind knowing I have to step back now because I have to go back to this role that I thought was handled. We were moving forward. So not only is it the fear of conflict, but it really, I feel, disrupts your whole path of what you're trying to work on because it's something I have to step back into. Now I'm having to get back into this role because I thought it was taken care of, but in the part of like losing control because you're having to go back and take care of that area.
So think about this next statement I'm going to make, because this one, when I read it, really hit home with me, and I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't think about it that way. If you don't address it to everybody else, it shows that you've endorsed it.
Yes.
So if you avoid it because of conflict or because you're too busy, guess what the rest of the team thinks?
It's okay.
It's okay. You've endorsed that.
That's
No, he
the
hasn't said
idea.
anything. That's what he
right.
wants.
Yeah.
It's okay to come in later. It's okay to not pick up the trash. It's okay to not open the door for people. It's okay to not call them back.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And you just assume that everyone's like, no, that's not right, right? Like we were raised differently. You should understand that as a grown human being, right, wrong, here's how you do it. But assume is just the greatest word that is overlooked, that you're assuming these people will do all this and they won't.
You got to think about, now I'm going to go back to like when you were a kid, okay? Especially if you guys were trying to hang out with somebody that's older. Okay, and it was in that group of friends or wherever it was, you were doing whatever you could to kind of fit in their culture,
Yeah.
to be accepted.
Yes.
So as we get new hires in, if we don't make sure our culture's there, the new people that are coming in, they're going to mold to that.
Yes.
And they're just going to assume that's accepted. He doesn't ask me about my phone calls. He doesn't ask me about my open ROs. He doesn't ask me about this. We don't take the time to, if the bathroom, I don't know, I'm being silly here, but if the bathroom's messed up, to address it.
You know, it's funny. I was just introduced to a new delivery specialist we have this morning. And that's the thing, like when there's a new employee, we say, hey, we want them to meet everyone. And I mean everyone, right? So they understand. And we send out a newsletter that says, hey, new employee, here's a picture of them because I want to be able to see a name, picture, and some info about them. But what I will always tell a new hire is, hey, we're so glad to have you. Ask lots of questions. Ask lots of questions. Remember the good things and block out all the bad things. Right? So I'll tell that to a new hire. Ask lots of questions, remember all the good things, and block out all the bad things. Like I'm trying to give them a heads up of, in a quick elevator speech of, you're going to get stuff thrown at you that's people trying to erode the culture.
Yes.
Block that out.
Yeah.
The good things that you feel like are the good things, so it's not like a fraternity hazing thing. Like, block those things out. Here's the good things. Here's the good people that are helping me, and I need to ask a lot of questions, take a lot of notes.
That's great you say that. I'm going to give another tip here, and it's a little bit off subject, but it's not because it compounds on what you're talking about. Here's what I have to do. because I don't have the best memory in the world, and I've convinced myself because like so much stuff's coming at me, you know, I have so much capacity. If I don't have some anchors to remember things, especially names, it's very difficult for me to remember names.
Right.
So just like Shelby said, asking questions, I'll ask a new employee about non-automotive related things. So like what they had done in the past, where they were from, you know, things they're proud of, their hobbies. And then I take those, and when I'm either talking to you guys or somebody else, when we talk about a new employee, I re-talk about, hey, they played football here.
Yeah.
They do this, they do that, because they're key anchors for me. Plus, they're proud about them.
Yeah.
And then you guys, when you walk by, it's like, hey, you know, Matt told me that you were really big into rock climbing.
Yeah.
And it makes that make me feel special. Like, come on.
Well, you're talking human. You're not just talking code, you know? Like, you're talking human and you're talking about them, right? It's not just, hey, when we hire a new person, this, and this, right?
Yeah, that's really good. You know, that statement again of if you don't address it, you've endorsed it. I hope business leaders out there hear that. I do, and it's helping me. And I'm going to remember this going forward of like, shoot, if I don't address it, the rest of my employees in my culture go, well, he must have changed his opinion on that and he's okay with it now.
Yeah, and I think before we move on, it's important just to understand, even if it's a high performer, even if it's a high performer, it's even more important of a high performer. Now, it's important how you handle it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's important that you understand the communication to help keep the culture in the direction you want to go instead of creating culture friction. Because a high performer is going to be a high talker, right, and a high visual for everyone else.
They're influencing the others.
Oh, yeah. Whether they say, hey, everybody look at me, or they just naturally, everyone looks at them, right? So it's important that you bring them in and say, hey, here's the goal, here's the expectations, here's how I want to help, what can I do to help you help, right? And you're asking that question, give a narrative, but you're asking that question, so then they feel important.
Yeah.
And say, hey, is there anything I can do specifically to help with your schedule to make sure we're on target, on key here? Because otherwise, you're going to be like, hey, why so-and-so leave at 3 o'clock? Or why don't he do this? You know, it's like, hey, here's the goal, here's the game plan, here's what we're doing. And it shouldn't be anybody else's business, but it just becomes that, right?
It does. All right, I've got 4 questions. So each of y'all are going to get 2 of them, okay? And we'll go down, we'll rotate back and forth. And try to give a quick answer here, but we want to help everybody out there maybe deal with or figure out how to fix that they're avoiding fixing things, okay? So here we go. Taylor, let's start off with you.
Okay.
Why do we delay uncomfortable conversations?
Because it's not natural, and we've already kind of talked about that, but it's not natural of going into, man, I just don't want to do that, and it's an uncomfortable conversation always seems like it pops up to me whenever something good's happening. And the last thing I want to do is pour water on top of a fire whenever somebody's already chugging along.
Like, no, let me enjoy this. It's rolling for just a minute.
Like I had a salesman that did something, went through deposits, which happens in this game, and he's the one that ultimately needs to be punished through it. The last thing you want to do in a salesman, especially when he's selling, you go and tell a sales manager, hey, we're going to take that from him. Great. I just put the fire out now on my salesperson. But you need to have those
But you have to address it.
Do.
Otherwise, it's like, nope, we're good. Nope, we're good. And they're like, I'll do it again.
Yep.
Because they're saying I got away with it. They're saying I got away with it. So
right.
it's one of those things where you got to address it and say, we don't do it like this.
Yeah.
Right? You did wrong. Now we've got a tough situation where your customer thinks he got the car. This customer thinks they locked the car down.
Yes.
And you're the center of all this.
Yeah.
And so you got to go over, and then you got to figure out how to say, okay, let's find your customer another vehicle, and try to keep them elevated, keep their fire burning. But you're going to have to bring it down some.
No, that's a good answer on that. All right, Shelby, when does patience turn into perseverance?
It's a lot of words. Permissiveness. So
you know what I mean? Translate.
Yeah, I totally got you there. So when your patience of just like your patience and your patience and your patience, and it's kind of like the tea kettle that just explodes. And it's the untranslated, in my opinion, it's the untranslated expectation. So your patience, and if you haven't clearly communicated what you expect, then it switches over to the permissiveness of like that person assumes it's okay that I do this, or they assume I'm doing the right thing, right? And so it's like, no, you are not, in my definition, you are not okay to be doing that.
Yeah.
And my patience, now I'm exploded. That's not okay. That's not the game plan. That's not how we do it. So you have to be careful that you don't go too far in that.
No, I think that's good. All right, Taylor, how do you handle a high performer who creates culture friction?
You have to keep them in check, and a lot of times they will go past all of their avenues, and ultimately has to be a person you handle as the owner, the leader of the business, that handle them and put them back into check. But it gets to a point, and we've had them in the past, that it gets to a point that if they will not continue to perform and they're disrupting like completely against what your culture is, you've got to move on. You've got to move on to a different way, because it definitely gets past the point of where the juice is not worth the squeeze, and it's easy to overlook that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to handle them and hold them accountable, and a lot of times only you can do that.
Yeah.
You can't have another manager do that, because they just blow over the top of them. And then the manager's mad. Then it doesn't resolve anything. So you ultimately have to be the one that handles and holds them accountable, because you can kick them a little bit harder than what another manager
I think
could.
2 things you hit there. When you're talking about a high performer, the correct person's got to address them.
Yeah.
And number 2, you got to realize a high performer has high visibility within your business too. So you must pull them in and like sit down and close the door.
Yeah.
There's something about atmosphere that changes when you pull an employee or an athlete in a room, sit down, close the door. It's like, we're getting ready to talk business here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no show, there's no cameras, there's nobody else.
Yeah.
We're talking here.
Yeah. It
You know?
takes all the fluff out of it really fast.
It does. It
And
does.
it's just proper expectation. It's one of those things that if you continue to circle to it, this is a team of 275 people or 5 people or 3,000 people, whatever size your team or business is, and it cannot be centered around one person and one
That's right.
person's changing of that culture if it's not the way you want to do. And sometimes, like Taylor said, you got to part ways, right? If you can't correct it, and a high performer, that does not come at a easy decision or a light decision or a quick decision. But then sometimes you continue to hold the friction to like, here's a standard, here's a standard, here's a standard,
Yep.
and it'll generally take care of itself. Like if they're not willing to pull the cart equally plus, then they're gonna say this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And then and at the end of the day, you know, and that's tough, and that's feathers get ruffled. That's what was best for the team.
Yeah. I've got one more question for you, but you just hit on something, and I got to say this because this is big. Do remember this: if you have a high performer that is hurting your culture, it's more important than a low performer that you hit it head on and you keep your thumb on it rapidly, because I can promise you if it ends up being sour that you got to part ways, they will try to take the ship down with them.
Yep.
And they have the ear of everybody else in the department because they've set the bar.
Yep.
So you got to address it in hammer time.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Shelby, what happens to the team when the leader avoids correction?
The leader kind of loses its leadership, right? The North Star loses its North Star.
It's not so much north anymore, is it?
No, it's kind of like ebb and flow, and yeah, he's the boss, but I run this place, right? That happens, right? And you start seeing like a step below that manager is like, you know, we've talked about time a whole lot. I'll come and go as I please. I clock 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week, you know, and then whether it's the truth or not, the leader has not properly had that closed door conversation or said, hey, let's work on your schedule. You are killing it. Can I get you to work night shifts or something? Whatever, right? But then you lose that pyramid of understanding and teaching and coaching of each different layer there. And so you got to either correct that, fix that, or rehire that, or whatever that may be. Because if you just let it, it will erode.
Yeah, it will, for sure. For sure. All right, on to the Mythbuster.
If I ignore it, it will fix itself.
I've tried it. I
Does
don't know
it
about
work?
y'all.
Yeah.
No, it fails every single time.
It's like one of those prairie dogs that just pops its head up from another hole.
And I've done it more on the side of with an employee, not performing. And so I've handed reports out to them. I've gone over it in a group situation.
So you're addressing it, just not like a straight address.
Just like straight. But I'm like, surely they get it.
No.
They don't. And I can look back, guys, how many times I should have done my advice I just said 3 minutes ago. And I should have taken that same report after the meeting and sat them down in the office and closed the door.
But you're not wrong in that. And you're not alone in that.
No.
Is because oftentimes if you have to have a coaching counseling session of what's right, what's wrong, what's the different, what do we need to work on, you think about, I do at least, and I know you guys do, you think about the ramifications of that conversation. And we're talking about the ramifications of you don't have it. But if you do have it, what's it going to do to the team?
I know.
And so you're thinking about, okay, when should I do this? Like, I don't want to do it first thing because I don't want to run their day, right? And I need them to be positive to coach and help out the rest of the day. And then crap, I don't want to do it at the end of the day because they're going to go home to their family and I'm over it and I don't want to do it, but I know I need to do it. So you just sit and so when's the correct time? It's now.
I can tell you another thing that I go through in my mind, the exact same things you talk about, timing, because we're in an emotional
It's the first
and
of
a
the month. It's
momentum.
the end of the month.
Or we need to get the ball rolling. Or,
Yeah.
You know, the other one too with me though, is I don't get wound up, like upset very often, but I know that when I do, it's going to take so much for me to like calm back down.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect all the rest of the team, even though I'm never going to do it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
I know that I've got to work through that too. And I'm like, dang, I've got this coming up and this coming up and this coming up that I got to be in the right mindset for. I can't address it now because it's going to affect those 4 other things.
So I don't know that anybody has the right timing for that, right?
know.
But the timing is, one, do your best not to be wound up. Now, if you could just control yourself, you're not overly going to get wound up. It's when the other person has their feelings and thoughts and opinion about it and you have to correct that. That's when you get wound up because you're sitting there boiling because it's blatantly clear and honest how they are not holding up their end of the stick. And you're like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And at the end, like as cool, calm, and collected as you're going to be, you're still going to be riled up.
Your emotions are going to evolve. And like for everybody to understand, we're not talking about addressing somebody showing up 15 minutes late.
No.
Like these are hard conversations.
Yeah, this is continual. They've worked with you for a long time, whatever.
Where's this money going? Why aren't we holding out for this?
Yes.
What the heck's going on here?
Why do we?
That there's a lot of opinions and emotions involved.
Right. And you do your best to have facts, so it's not opinion driven.
Yeah.
And if you can have another person with you, that generally helps as well.
It
keeps
does.
the fire down and it keeps proof and helps there as well. But if you ignore it, you approve it.
Yep, that's right.
If you ignore it, you're
And you'll figure out in a whole lot of situations too to hit off of that. Whenever you have your facts and you're going over it, this will be a quick sight in like looking down the tracks of if that employee continues to deny it when you have facts, that's helping you make your decision of, hey, I need to move forward in this aspect. So remember that whenever you're sitting down and you have your other person you're going over with, always have the facts there because then it helps you make a logical, non-emotional decision. So resetting standards without destroying morale, that's sometimes really difficult to do.
Yeah, and we kind of a little bit talked about that of our thought and that process of how it goes, but you have to reset that expectation cleanly.
Yeah.
Like you have to think, okay, how do I do this while addressing it without upsetting the operation, but understanding this needs to be done and this needs to be reset. And I think it's a little bit of, you do it before it's boiling, right? And so it's not built up in this and this, and I'm mad about this, and you're doing this wrong and this wrong. And so if you do it on a normal manner, but then also one thing that we're not great at, and sometimes we need to go back and watch these podcasts ourselves, but is having those one-on-one conversations when it's good.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to take a minute and break this down and close my door and say, or have you in my office and say, hey, last month you did great. You were 20% above everyone else. Hey, you did this, this, and this. And that's all, right? I just want to say, good job. I appreciate you. I see you. Have a great day.
Because those are just as important.
Those are important, and then also allows you, so when you have a tough conversation, you're like, dude's always just whacking me. Like, no, he brought me in last time and told me good job.
I think I know it's very important too. If you are changing something, an expectation or a standard, you've got to very, very direct call that out. This is changing.
Yeah.
This goal, this process, this procedure that used to be in place is no longer.
And let me tell you, because we have certain employees that navigate certain ways.
Yep.
You need to have that in-person conversation.
Yep.
Hey, here's what we were doing. Here's now what we're doing. Here's the replacement. And you need to have proof. And it's proof because our memories aren't that great. And we just had one the other day that they thought they were getting 10 days and it was 7 days. So you have to have that conversation in person, and you need to follow up with a memo sheet of paper or document that's signed that we're all on the same page. And if it's a text, because there's some people that I will text, and it's not because I don't want to have a conversation. One, maybe it needs to be a big conversation. Yeah. But I'll text it back over, and I'm like, hey, just so we are all on the same page.
Just to recap what we talked about.
Just to recap so we're all on the same page. So if there was, well, I kind of thought like we maybe would move to that. Like, no. We were very clearly said, today is the day we will now move over to this process, and here's what it is. So document that and make sure everyone has that. So if they need reference, they can go back to it.
Man, there is nothing but a better feeling that if you have something documented and you need to re-go over it, takes all the emotion out and be like, hey, back on October 28th,
right here.
Here's where we went
over this. Dude, we had that in I have Otter AI that records all of my meetings.
Yeah.
Or a majority of them, right? If I don't have an invite, it doesn't do it. But the other day when we were in construction, and we've been in construction for what, like 4 years now?
No, it's more than that.
84 years now we've been in construction.
Appreciate y'all going to the meetings.
Oh, Lord of mercy. Yeah. And so then they were like, well, this and this and this and this. And Matt was like, blatantly was like, no, we went over this. I gave you the drawings. And he was like, well, if you refer to 38.641, you'll see here where McClellan sent this over. It's like, I hired the engineer. I hired the architect. I don't know what they did with that, but here's where I saw it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I gave you the snippets. Now, I'm not an architect, and I didn't put it back in the structural drawings and send it back to the city for approval and gone back over to McClellan to come back over to here. And so then while they were talking about that, then these gutters came up, and so I was just over here searching. I was like, oh, here you go.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And I was like, oh, yeah, in November 2024. And I'll quote, John said, well, we don't want the Lewises to not be happy with what they paid for. They paid for this product, and that's not what was delivered, so Nabholz will make it right.
Yeah.
And so then there's no emotions.
There's no emotions.
Right? And it's like, okay, do you need a copy of this? Do we have any questions? What's next on the agenda?
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
so much better.
Thoughts and feelings and
And it feels really good for you as a person. Whenever somebody's kicking and you want to just smack them straight in the head.
I wanted that to them, but,
it's so much easier and non-confrontational, and it hits so much harder than you doing whatever you thought you were going to do of like, no, great. And the better part of it is, you just talked about this a little bit ago, you don't have to control your emotion from going like this, then to reset back down.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, here you go. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on this.
Yep.
And you leave it and you move on.
Yep.
You move on there. So of rolling through that, how do you enforce consistency across your managers?
You make sure that you've communicated expectations.
Okay.
And then, no different than what you just talked about with the documents, you review whatever the KPIs are on an individual basis, and you go over that.
Yep.
And, this past year, it started March of last year, if y'all remember, we went to a different level of KPIs and variables. And it evolved over the year, each month to month. But that's how we hold each one of our managers at a consistent level of expectations.
Yes.
If you don't, we were in the airport yesterday, and we were talking about another department. And we're like, why haven't we developed the KPIs in that department yet? Because we've got an individual in that department thinking they're killing it.
Yeah.
We know they're not killing it, but they're just looking at one part. You got to look at the metrics. It's got to be clear.
Yes, you can put them in every single department. It's not just, in our case, sales service, whatever it would be. It's in every department.
Every single department.
Yes. Well, and I
You know,
think,
they do in school too. Like,
Yeah.
I got to think about, so right before Christmas.
oh yeah, you're right.
My seventh grader, I think it was just my seventh grader, yeah, because middle school didn't have it. So junior high, if you had perfect attendance, they had then allowed you to get out a few days before the Christmas break. So were there like 3 or 4 additional days that my oldest didn't go back to school because he had perfect attendance, because they had set out expectations and they had tracked it. And at 12 years old, here's what happens when you have a goal
Yeah.
and there's no arguing it.
Yep. That's good.
That is so good. So diving into there, and I love this. I just have to hit this point of this, and we will be of going through overall leadership. But accountability without ego is so important for a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, because generally you feel like management equals ego, right? Hey, I'm here because I'm the best, I'm good, da da da. It's so hard to find or to be that humble leader. And like, that generally is more of where we would side towards than that ego person. That's just, we were blessed to be that way, but that's not normal, right? And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying you're going to have to be on the other side of the people. Their ego is going to be super high, and understanding that you can have accountability without having to stroke that ego or put that ego down. Like, here's the facts, here's what we're working on, here's what the expectations are. Do what you want with the ego, but let's put it down.
Head thermometer for you, and I know we're just, this has taken a lot of hard work, but we just grew up this way. If you ever tell somebody do it because I said so or because my position, ding, 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 you need to work on your ego.
That's a quick tell time, because I'm your manager, because I said so, because I'm the owner. Like, just, that's so, like, you shouldn't have to say that. And if you do feel like you're saying that, you haven't earned the trust of those people.
That, you have an ego and you have an issue, and you're not very good at managing and leading.
That's exactly what it is.
Because you're not really showing them the facts and how they can be better.
Yep.
And it's harder to do. It's easy to say, do it because I'm in control. Do it because I'm the owner.
Yep.
But what do you get out of that?
Nothing. Like, you haven't gained anything. And if they do it, it's going to be subpar.
It's out of spite. And
yeah,
it's like,
and it's
mad
not
the whole
good.
time,
And so you can ask some questions. So like, hey, tell me, in this process, where are we dropping the ball? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And then instead of saying, hey, just do it, and sometimes I feel
want
like
to.
that, just like,
I do too.
just do it. Like, why should I have to explain it? Just do it. That's your job. But we had some people the other day, and it's funny, we went over this in Cake Day, and we get out a employee of the month, and it's not based on performance. It's based on, their ability to help others and go above and beyond. And we always talk about these people, and generally it's the same attributes from different people.
Sure.
But it's going above and beyond and doing things that people don't, it's the walking through the parking lot and picking up the trash when that's not their job. But recently had some employees that management told me that was like, hey, why aren't we doing this? Like, what's the hang up here? Is it not work? And he's like, well, I went through this, and I was like, okay, well, let's train everyone again. So we did on the showroom, train this whole delivery tool. And so then I went back over the next day, and I bought an iPad, and I was like, hey, this might be part of the issue. They don't have a way to do that work.
Yeah.
So I got on my iPad. I was like, hey, let's log in. They said, I don't have a login. So, oh, perfect. Let's get you a login. And so it was a 24-hour, I was like, here, let me log in for you. I was like, hey, do you know how to do this? And they said, no, I don't know how to do this. I said, oh, okay. Did you not do training? And they said, no. I said, okay, well, Tuesday, were you not sitting in that truck? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, hold on. So I went back to the manager, like, were they not in the training? They're like, yeah. And so they went back over to them, and I went back and I couldn't find them. They had fled the scene by that point, because I was about to take them, put them in the same room with the manager and say, where are we lost in translation here? But when it came down to it, they told the manager, that's not my job. That's like, I will not fire somebody off the cuff without pure facts and time tools and training, which is a long process. That is the quickest way for me want to fire somebody.
Exactly.
And so on the Cake Day, I was like, hey, this is the award for the people that never say it's not my job. And I don't want to hear that out of anyone's mouth, that that's not my job. But in today's world, it's still out there.
It is.
Right?
It is. That's a good point.
Yeah, it is. So last question, wrapping it up there. What's one thing I'm personally tightening up on starting soon, starting tomorrow?
I'm going to say address quicker, right? It's just like a constant reminder of that. Address quicker. Good, bad, and ugly. Address it quicker.
I was going to say the identical thing. I'll just add, so I feel like I added something, is just have the facts. When I address it, have the facts.
Yep, yep, yep.
And if we go over something, write it down or send it over in a text so we've got that timestamp of it.
Yeah, I think that's so good, making sure you have the facts, that everyone involved has the facts,
Yep.
HR has the facts, and so then when you address that quicker, you can say, hey, here's where we're at, just so we're on the same page. Because sometimes we put an evaluation or a write-up or a pro forma, whatever it may be, we put it on a pedestal, and it has to be so official.
Yeah.
And HR is saying, no, just in a conversation or text, that was something, just document it there.
That's good.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today on episode 76 of Crossroad Conversations with Lewis Brothers. Remember always, lewissuperstore.com for all your automotive needs, and Crossroad Conversation podcast across all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can watch it, you can listen to it. Make sure you subscribe so you get the latest and greatest, and we'll see you soon. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family. Even visit our website, send us the questions about what you want to know, what you want to hear. Tell us about the automotive industry, family business in general. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you have. But make sure you tune in next time where we bring in another guest and we talk more about the automotive industry and all the great things going on within our business.